I was looking the other day and I saw a comment that said something about me hating PlayStation. This person said, I've watched a series of your videos since, the Gotham Knights days. And more recently, I've noticed that a lot of your videos are, directed towards PlayStation. And it just appears to me that you do hate PlayStation at the end of the day. Actually, the reality is, number one, I actually am more of a PlayStation fan than a lot of people, which is interesting. The only thing is, I am not a brand loyalist in that sense anymore. I have basically divested myself of being loyal to any single brand out there. And there's a specific reason for that. You see, before I even moved to the PC platform, I was already feeling like PlayStation was not providing any value for me. Yes, the PS4 was a limited platform, but most of my favorite games, like the Arkham games, were on PC and I could play them at better performance. I could play the game that I actually moved to PC for, The Division, without paying for PlayStation Plus, or if you were going the Xbox route, or Xbox Live or Xbox Live Gold. And I said to myself, what am I doing on this platform? I'm playing games at better versions, and it's costing me less to actually play those games. Whereas in the case of the console, I'm spending more money and I'm getting the worst version of the games. I'm not getting good enough service. Sure, there's some exclusives here on PlayStation. I guess I can keep my PlayStation to play them. But for most other games, I think I'm probably going to now start sticking with PC. Over time, this particular problem has grown with PlayStation not valuing the customer. Basically, in a sense, padding its own library by money-hatting games, anti-consumer practice, trying to kick its competition and make it look irrelevant so that it could hedge a market. Y'all don't even see that play because sometimes the brand loyalty blinds us. And so in my bid, I just want to point out that PlayStation is, number one, just like any other company, subject to market forces. And number two, can and should be held accountable when it's not providing value for its gamers. Now, from time to time, PlayStation will show up in the news, Xbox will show up in the news. If both of them show up in the news, I'll talk about them. I'll make videos about them that I think are relevant, that are, straight up, associated or at least appropriate for the conversation. If PlayStation's in the news, I'll talk about them, or not in the news, I'll talk about them. And I also noticed as I started to point out, okay, that Xbox was bringing a value that PlayStation didn't have, because that was quite surprising for me. Like seeing Xbox bring a thing like Game Pass, seeing them actually make moves to be able to provide the consumer with more games, regardless of them even sucking in that generation, the Xbox One generation. I was like, how is PlayStation supposedly the market leader and is not bringing value to the table? In looking at it, Xbox basically clowned them when it just came out that, they were going to bring Game Pass. They were going to bring their games and make their own consumers look really good for value proposition in terms of you will pay money and you will see your money actually be useful for you. So when all was said and done, I saw that PlayStation was pretty much exposed and not providing anything of value to its own gamers. And I said, I'm going to point this out. So right now, this amount of scrutiny that PlayStation hasn't really had, because for the last few years that I've actually paid attention, PlayStation has enjoyed a lot of media assist. No doubt about that. It's what we call the Xbox tax. In fact, I never knew about that, but then I finally saw it and I was like, wow. I cannot believe that PlayStation is getting, PlayStation gets all of this, assist from the media, and it's just wild at the end of the day. And Xbox, for doing similar things, will get heavily scrutinized. So there was also that other side of the conversation as well that did not bode well nor sit well with me. So I decided what I'll do is I'll point out the record, and I'm going to call into question every time we see these issues. And that's all. That's simply it. Now, in doing this, PlayStation fans arrived in droves. Boom, they came to the channel. Some of them started to roast me. Some of them started to drag me and all of the above. And because I know I'm onto something, I am fixated on it. And so I've just basically, put my foot down and dug in. And that's all it is. Because whenever the attacks come in, and I remember the attacks, they usually, people just come in and just want to say stuff. Like with Gotham Knights, I just dug in. I literally just, I didn't move. The more they kept doing it, the more videos I made. People kept saying, stop making these videos. And every time people say stop, I'm laughing. I'm like, no, if you tell me to stop, you're just asking the maniac in me to keep going. And yes, we all have a maniac in us. But the truth is the main point of focus. This is not about me. This is us getting down to the truth and the reality of what's going on in the gaming industry. And I know for some people, you have a lot of pride in the platform you're playing. I understand. I've played on that platform too, had a lot of pride playing on that platform. The one thing I never really bothered with, though, was going to, tout that my platform was better than anybody else and then lord it over their heads, because I've seen that behavior as well. Now, yes, I will point out that the PC platform is better than console, but these are material facts. And so it's not like I'm trying to lord it over your head. I've told you before, I've said before, I even have these consoles. And if you want to play on the consoles, that is your choice. And it's actually fine to do so. Because I would hate for somebody to move to PC. And in most of my, PC videos, when I say, hey, here's what PC offers that console doesn't offer, because, I've seen the proposition, I usually end it with a caveat saying, hey, and if you don't want to come to PC, please don't. Because I would hate for somebody to make a move to the PC platform and have a bad experience. And then they'll be looking at me like, oh, this is the guy that actually told me about this stuff, and he sucks. He didn't tell me about this, and this. And I'm like, no, if you feel like the experience is not going to be good for you, don't touch it. So this is where I am in the whole conversation. At the end of the day, I strongly believe that PlayStation needs to be looked at very carefully. They're a very shrewd company, and you as the consumer need to be shrewd in your approach. But most consumers are, just happy with what it is that they already have, and that's fine. But the conversation still needs to happen. And I think the conversation can happen from a viable perspective when it comes down to it. When you think about it. However, when people start to run defense and they start to try to, I don't know how to even put it, and they try to maybe make the person who's actually pointing out these things look like, they're crazy, or they start calling names, it doesn't really help. And once those things continue to go on, I just double down. I'm not really interested in actually backing away from the argument until I see PlayStation actually provide value that a lot of other folk, like Xbox, are already providing. I'm not really interested to actually bother about stopping the conversation. Nope. We're going to have the conversation. Now, if it's too much and you feel like you need to tune out, I'm not mad. I'm not bothered. I'm not concerned. I understand. You can always unrecommend the channel. You can always delete it. You can always forget about it. It's okay. We're just having a conversation about the industry. None of this is an attack on you. I just wanted to make that position clear. Now, I'm going to see in the comment section, it's not true. You hate PlayStation. Whatever. I couldn't be bothered. I have a problem with them and the way that they're doing business and the way they're treating their consumers. But they're a nameless entity. Why would I want to hate a nameless entity? It can't even feel anything. And so that's my position on this. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.